Well, hello, I'm Alex, and today I've got an idea for making zines. So you can use this simple zine format to develop a daily practice. It's small, it's little, you can take it with you anywhere you go. It's perfect for prompts, and it's perfect for when you don't have time. You know how I'm always saying, it's easy to spend a few minutes a day in creative play. I'm sure some of you are like, well, it's easy for you to say you're an artist. So, I'm making these videos for you to take play breaks with me. This is your creativity timeout, baby. Just grab whatever supplies you have on hand, work alongside me, don't worry. I'm keeping this no fuss fabulous, easy peasy. Go ahead, check it out. Today's topic is stamps. I love stamps, and I've been making stamps for decades. Think of this as an overview because we'll be using stamps with our Daily Play with Zines series. And I will show you examples of different kinds of stamps. But right now we're actually going to make a few stamps, and we're going to make them with what's called EVA craft foam, or just EVA foam. So I discovered self-adhesive EVA foam a few years ago, and it's been a total game changer for me because it's just so damn easy to make stamps. Seriously, in a matter of minutes, you can make a stamp. EVA foam is easy to cut out. It's easy to etch into with a pencil. It's got the sticky back so you can stick it onto any kind of support. You can use stamping inks, or you can even use paint, and I'll get into that in a second. And it's super easy to clean. So let's talk EVA foam stamps, make a few, and then I'll give you an overview of other kinds of stamps I've made in the past. So what you need every time you sit down to make EVA foam stamps is you're going to need the actual EVA foam or craft foam. So you want the kind that's self-adhesive, which means it'll be white on the back and it's sticky, and you can peel that off. This is what we want because this allows us to stick it onto things, and that just makes so much sense, and it's so just easy. And also the white paper back here, you can use it to draw your designs with a pencil. You can totally draw on here, and that makes it easy too. Let's see what else. Okay, so this stuff usually comes in packs. This is like a pack of 5 colors. And here's a brand new sheet I haven't used yet, a green one, and I've been using the red one. So the only thing I would say with the different colors would be that the white one, because the paper on the back that you have to peel off is white, if you cut really little things and the foam is white too, sometimes it's hard to see where the paper is. Not a big issue, but that does sometimes happen. And if you use the black one, and I'll be showing you stamps where I've used all the colors, but if you use a black one, sometimes it's hard to see. Like if you're using a stamping pad that's running low on ink, and you're sort of constantly looking at whether enough ink is on your stamp before you stamp with it. If the foam is black, sometimes it's hard to see. That's the only comment I would make, and if that's the case, what you do is you just sort of hold your stamp at an angle to see if it looks wet, because wherever it looks wet, that's where the ink is on there. So if you're just starting out, use a lighter color. Basically, that's all I wanted to say. You may want to have a little box or tin where you can keep scraps, because you will be making scraps all the time, just like when you're cutting paper, when you're cutting your fodder to make collage. It's nice to save those because a lot of times stamps are made. The way I'm going to show you is we're making composites, which is easier, which means we're sticking parts together to make one design instead of trying to cut all that out of one piece. So it's nice to have scraps. What else do you need? So the foam, scissors, a pencil. We use pencils for etching. I'll get into that in a second. Some wipes to get the ink off your fingers. I'm going to grab one right now. Okay, let's get going here. The ones we're making today is we're making this guy, and this guy. Alright, you'll need some scrap paper. You always need scrap paper when you're working with stamps. I'll show you how to clean your stamps in a second once we make these guys. And alright, so you take some, depending on what your support is. If your support is already, like if you've already got the support, then the size will be limited to what you've got, which was this situation. If you're cutting it out, you can make it bigger or smaller. So if I'm using something like this, I just start with my design. If I'm using something like this, then I have to start with the actual size given to me. Okay, I want you to cut I want you to cut 3 squares. Let's start with squares. So grab your EVA foam, cut into it, and let's make some fairly big squares, squarish shapes. Okay, this is all the foam we'll be using, and we'll make 3 stamps out of that, I think. So the first one I want you to cut it fairly square, and the second one too, and the third one can be more of a rectangle. Alright, let's do this. I want you to, and you can draw this on the back or you could just cut it, but I want you to think about a double triangle stamp. That's basically like if you drew an X inside the square on the back side of that square foam, if you drew an X from corner to corner, I want you to cut out those 2 triangles. So let's just go in here and let's do this one. And I'm actually going to, obviously I'm going to end up with 4 triangles, so just pick 2 that you want to stack on top of each other. It doesn't have to be the 2 you were thinking. Maybe you like 2 other ones better. So remember, save your scraps. And then this one is going to be the circular one. So I want you to draw a circle, and if you want to trace something, go ahead, but they're so much more fun when you can tell that they were drawn by hand. So I want you to press into your foam here as hard as you can and go around a few times. So once you've made the groove, it's easy to go back into it. So that's my circle, and I'm going to just make a star with 3 lines. Let's see, what am I doing? There. Okay. So I just, with my pencil, etched in a circle and then did the star. Now what I'm going to do is cut around my circle, because I don't want it to be a square stamp. I want it to be a roundish stamp with the star on the inside here. And you might find it easier to cut with the sticky back side up. I'm always going back and forth. But here's this guy. And now I want you to do this guy here. And for this guy, I want you to just, let's see, I'm going to straighten this out a little bit. Cut 3 strips. 3 sort of fairly equal sized strips. If you wanted to draw those first, you could do that. Let me draw those on here. just cut them. 1, 2, 3. Okay. This is going to be your other stamp. All right. So now if I'm going to do this on cardboard. So I'm just going to assume you have something you can stick these on. So cut your examples here according to the size of where you could stick them on. Peel off the back. So sometimes they call this EVA foam, they call it sticky back, or what else do they call it? Peel and stick, right? Sticky back, peel and stick, but I think the official name for it is adhesive, self-adhesive EVA foam. Okay, so I just prepared that one. Now I'm going to prepare the strips. So peel off your paper. And then of course with the 3 strips you need to decide how much space you want between each one here for your design. I really liked how this looks. I'm basically just replicating my example here that I made to see ahead of time, and I'm going to cut out the support as close as I can. So there you go, there's that one. And then I'm going to do the triangle one, and I call this the double triangle stamp. So I wanted you to start by just practicing cutting simple shapes and sticking them on a support and seeing how easy that is. Because obviously you could do so many things. Look, this guy sort of came off the edge here, but that's okay. You can reposition these. Once you start stamping with them, you're sort of pushing down on them a lot, but when you first make them, you can reposition them a little bit. This one's funny, it's not meeting at the point, but I don't mind, it's kind of interesting. Of course, I had the other guys here if I wanted something. Okay, so if you decide you don't like it, just peel it off. Yeah, I think I'm going to be happier with this one. I do want the points to line up as much as possible. Alright, so here's this. So now once you've got it in place the way you like it, go ahead and press on it a little bit. And for this last stamp, I will cut around it. Like I said, you want your support to be as close to the actual design as possible. Otherwise it's hard to see where you're placing your stamp when you're stamping with it. Okay, that's it. 3 stamps on the supports ready to go. So let's grab the blue ink here. And we're going to stamp right on this paper. And this is what I do. I have a wipe ready at all times when I'm stamping. And I even use the wipe to sort of wet my finger, and it helps me be able to pick up the stamps this way. So in lieu of having a piece of wood or something with a handle, I just go like this. So you can see that I'm picking up the blue, especially when you're starting with a clean stamp. It's helpful to see the ink, and then you just go down, you just do that. So that's your first stamp, baby. And in the first video here in this series, I'm going to show you how to use these stamps and play with repetition. So that's why I wanted you to cut these stamps. So let's do the second one, which is the triangles one. So again, I wet my finger a little bit. Oops. It usually works. It probably works because the cardboard I'm using has like a kind of varnish on it, so it's glossy. See? So it went from a reddish color, which is the color of the foam, to a bluish color, which is the color of the ink. And I'm going to turn it. So the bigger your stamp gets, the bigger your design gets, the more you're sort of concerned about distributing the weight of distributing the pressure when you push it down to get the ink stamped on evenly. So that's the only drawback that using this cardboard might have, this kind of support. The bigger your stamp gets, the more you sort of need to use all your fingers to push down on it. You can do it, but it's a lot quicker when you can just go in and out and in and out and in and out. So ideally this is best for little stamps. If you get like double the size of this, I would say you might be able to use a coaster or a support that's just bigger. So you see that? Look how beautiful that is. So if you're using a clean stamp, it takes a while sometimes for the ink to build up, or maybe my ink is just drying out, I don't know. There you go. These are your first 3 stamps. Okay, let's get to cleaning them. The best way to clean your stamps is to just stamp them out. So on a scrap piece of paper, try to get as much off as you can on the paper itself. That way you don't need to use a million wipes. Then you can use a wipe, and I use these until there's no white left on them. I try not to go overboard on the wipes here. So use a wipe to get any excess off, and then stamp one more time on a scrap piece of paper, and then you're done. I did want to show you these guys. I found these in a store. They were super cheap, and half of them were dry. So that's why they were so cheap. But this is where these beautiful colors are coming from, like the yellow and the magenta, the hot pink. And they did have a black, which is actually not bad. So these are called craft ink pads, where these are just normal stamping ink pads. Like in an office supply store, for these you'd have to go to any store that sells crafts. And the ink is a little bit more permanent. I don't think it's totally permanent, but definitely this stuff is water soluble, and this is a little bit stickier and a little bit more opaque, and well, I guess it depends which color. And then what else did I want to say? Oh, sometimes you make really big stamps, and let's say you have a coaster, a round coaster that you've done a big design on with your EVA foam, and it's just slightly too big to grab the ink this way. Well, what you would do is, let's say this is your stamp, except it's way bigger, and it's too big to grab the ink this way. What you do is you turn your stamping pad over, you put your stamp in your hand, and you ink it up this way. Okay, really important to know that that's a possibility. I've made gigantic stamps and I had to do it that way, just to test them. If you get these craft ink pads, look how they aren't set into the actual, you see how this is, your little area with the ink is set into the frame of the box that holds this. Well, here your little pillow of ink, if you want to call it that way, it's like a sponge, is not set into the frame. It's sitting on top of it, which means it's easier to stamp bigger things like this. Okay, so keep that in mind. So that's what a lot of people do that do a lot of stamping. They buy these kinds of inks because of the colors, because of the opacity, and because of the ease of adding your ink this way, and not being limited by the borders of the thing that's holding the actual sponge with the ink on it. Okay, I hope that made sense. Another thing that I do, especially when my stamps are really big, is I use paints. So if I'm stamping on fabric, I'll use fabric paints. If I'm stamping on paper, I'll just use acrylic paints, and I will put the paint on a sponge, and then I will transfer the paint this way. So I'm not using inks, I'm not using stamping pads of any kind. I'm using acrylic paints, which dry. When they're dry, they're permanent, and I'm using sponges. And I cut up my sponges into little bits, because after a while you can't use them anymore because they're full of paint, and then that paint dries and then they get really hard. But I transfer the paint this way. So I wanted to point that out. You're not limited. You don't even need stamp pads. If you've got sponges and some tubes of acrylic paint, you can use that. Okay, I hope you had fun taking this tiny play break with me. Be honest, it was super easy. You know, when it comes to your creativity, it's never about what you're making. It's about how you feel while you're making it, right? Okay, I've got lots more videos on my YouTube channel here, so subscribe, stay tuned, play. Come back and get your daily dose of make stuff feel good energy. Thank you so much for being here, and sparkle on.